Once again, can we use your likeness on our channel, though?
You may.
Excellent, thank you.
You said he's likable.
Yeah, it's good. That's like.
What's up, insiders? In today's video, we're going to answer your questions around content ID, copyright claims for remixes, humming, covers, all sorts of things. So, hello, I'm Barbara.
And I'm David.
Our content ID expert.
There you go. So I lead the product team for content ID. And I'll see if I can help with some of these questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming back. David and I filmed a fair use video. If you haven't checked it out, we're going to link to it down below. I highly recommend checking out that video. I learned a ton. And then we're going to start off this video, and I'm just going to ask a question that I think is going to boggle a lot of people's minds with the information he's going to share here. So, help me understand the music industry. Okay, but we're going to get a little more specific. I would not expect that if I were to start humming a song right now, that this video would get a copyright claim. But it can, simply because I'm humming a melody.
Yeah, depends what melody you hum. So, for every song that you listen to, there are essentially two sets of copyrights. So one set of copyrights belongs to the songwriter and so that's for the words and melody of the song. And another set is for the recording artist, and so this is the actual performance of the song and the recording of that song. So when you are humming a melody, you're humming the melody that the songwriter wrote, and so that would be their copyright. And so we call that a composition. So you're humming that composition.
And is that, when you say composition, is that the melody and the lyrics themselves, or is it only one?
So yeah, it would be both. So it could be the melody, or it could be the lyrics, or it could be both.
Okay.
So if you were to put the lyrics on the screen right here, that could be, you could get that could be claimed by the publisher. The publisher is the entity that generally owns the composition rights. And so if you were to put the words on the screen, that could be claimed. If you were to hum the melody, that could be claimed. If you were to just say the words of the song, that could be claimed. I mean, there's obviously, we talked about fair use in the last video. So there are special cases where if you are talking about it in a context that is covered by the factors of fair use, then it might be considered fair use. But in terms of, it is still a use of that copyright that belongs to the publisher and the song, representing the songwriters. Yeah,
and so that covers one type, and then you talk about the other type just once more.
Sure. So the other part is like what you more think traditionally about a copyright in a song, right? So you're listening to music, and you obviously, I recognize that's Beyonce. We call that the master recording, or just the master. That copyright covers the recording itself. Yep. And so if you were to use bits and pieces of a master recording and maybe make a remix or something like that, if you were using the master recording, one thing we see quite often is people doing like a drum cover on top of the master, or singing over the master.
So playing that song in the background, but you're playing.
And you're playing an instrument, but you have the actual recording playing. In that case, the claim you would see usually would be for the master recording, because the master recording always on the right side, kind of in the behind the scenes of the system, the master recording always carries with it the rights of the songwriters.
For the composition.
Correct.
Yes.
There you go.
So you broke down, and already what you were saying was like, that was the core part that I wanted to make sure that we got across, there's kind of two types of claims. One is for the composition. It is for the melody, it is for the lyrics themselves, and one is for the actual performance of it. And so that's why, for all of these use cases, you can get claims for these things. Do we differentiate those in the UI anywhere?
Yeah, we try
on the copyright page.
We try to, because people get very confused, right? And so sometimes we see disputes like, "Hey, I played all of the instruments in this song. Why, there was I didn't use any of the original recording." And so we try to be very clear in the claim interface when you are getting a composition claim, or a claim that represents the songwriters and the publishers behind them. So we do our best to make that clear. I think that there's always room to improve that, because people do get confused. It's a little jargony. It's a little jargony, frankly, and not everybody understands what a composition is or a publisher is.
I had no clue. I thought it was only if I take a song that I could have heard on the radio, and if I put that in the background, I thought that was the only thing that could get claimed. And so I wanted to go through a list of other things that you have been asking in the comments of our videos, and for you to break down, like, yes, can be claimed.
Ooh, question time.
Kind of rapid fire question, even though we've talked about some of these.
Yeah,
so, acapella, where like you know, it's either you or a group of people, and there's no actual like music in the background.
Yeah, if you're singing a copyrighted melody, then it's subject to claiming. Now, keep in mind, not every melody is copyrighted. Some of them are in the public domain.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yep. Humming.
Same.
If I'm reading lyrics aloud.
Yep.
If I am not reading them and not playing any audio, but I'm just putting lyrics on the screen.
Yeah, potentially.
Yep. Okay. You did talk about covers. Okay, now the last two are more complex. So parodies. So there's kind of two forms. One is where you could be making more commentary about sort of the original song, more in the satire bucket. Or one would be more sort of derivative works. Can we say kind of like the Weird Al version of parodies?
Yeah. So we see you know this is super confusing, and it does go back to the questions about fair use from the other video. If you are using the song and changing lyrics in a way that is kind of holding the original up to ridicule or providing a commentary on the original, then you might have an argument for fair use. There are some pretty famous cases that have gone that way in courts. But if you're just taking the melody and saying, hey, it would be funny to change the words because I can use these different words and they rhyme or whatever.
Yeah.
That would be a tougher argument for fair use. Now, like we said before, fair use is always an argument.
Complicated, yes.
But generally speaking, if you're just using the melody in a way that's like, hey, you know, what would be funny is if I made a song about how much traffic there is on the freeway in the morning, and I set it to a popular song because people will all recognize that popular song, and that will make our song kind of more exciting for people. We are using the rights, and we are, you know, like, using some of the value that was created by that original creator of the song, and so that's why it works this way.
Correct. So parodies, yep, lots to unpack there, but there is potential that parodies can be claimed. And then remixes.
Same kind of thing. So if a remix is using, again, remember we talked about the recording of it as the master. So if you're taking that master recording and chopping it up and, you know, layering in other things, you're still implicating the rights of that master recording. It may get claimed. You know, you still have the kind of fair use arguments and things like that, but the fact is that copyright is still in use.
Okay. Thank you. That's it for rapid fire examples. Yeah. And then, so that kind of covers the core of what I wanted to get across to all of you. But then I also want to do a bit of a promos for some feature work that you've been doing around covers.
Sure.
Could you explain what you're doing there? Because it is related to this discussion.
Yeah, it's actually out now. So on YouTube, when you are performing a song, singing it, humming it, we have the ability in many cases, if you're in the partner program, to share revenue between the publisher and the creator who uploaded the video. So we call this cover rev share, although it's not necessarily strictly a cover. It could be different versions of it. It could be using the melody in different ways. But what happens is the claim will be made. In some cases, you may have a little checkbox that you have to tick and say, yeah, this is actually me performing it. And then we split the revenue between the publisher and the creator. We wanted to find a fair way to keep creators in the monetization picture there. Mm-hmm. And so this is sort of a step in that direction.
Yeah. So we'll also include a link to the Help Center about that down below. That is everything for us today. Hopefully this was a short and sweet video. Do you like coming on Creator Insider with us?
I love coming on Creator Insider.
And so what should our audience do?
I think you're supposed to thumbs up.
Yes!
Like, subscribe, and come back for more exciting stuff on future episodes.
Please do drop your comments down below. Please do keep the questions coming.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Because happy birthday is
happy birthday.
Yeah, some version of that.